And welcome back to the Sunday Funday podcast. This is your host, Guy, and my special co-host this week is Dillon again.
Hey, I'm back.
It's got a brand new mic. Things sounds a lot clearer.
Let's hope so.
So, Dillon, you had a pretty big trade. It's happened today. Tell us all about it.
So, today's trade, I traded with Breaker of Chains. We've been talking since week one about a trade, and I'm going to, pull back the curtain, and I'm just going to let everybody know that we've been working on a trade including Chris Carson, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Jay Ajayi. And that kind of fell through. And then today, there was interest on his side that he wanted Giovanni Bernard. And, the first deal didn't go through, and we talked about it all day. And then it came to my attention from my perspective that I needed a stronger bench for my wide receivers, because let's say somebody gets hurt. Let's say there's a terrible matchup for somebody. And after watching Odell Beckham struggle with this awful, awful Giants offense,
Oh, we got it so bad.
Just so perplexing to me that you draft Saquon Barkley and you don't have a plan on how to use these guys. So anyway, I'm like, I got to figure it out because there might be a matchup I'm not a fan of. So I looked at his wide receivers, and I came up with I either wanted Allen Robinson or Keelan Cole. And the reason I decided on those guys instead of, I think it was Corey, it was the wide receiver from the Titans that I'm blanking on. But I saw Allen Robinson, the strongest matchups he's going to play all year are against the Vikings. Okay, that's fine for a backup. And then I was like, Keelan Cole doesn't play anybody that plays defense. So those are the guys I like. And so I said, I want Corey Clement and Allen Robinson. So he gets Giovanni Bernard and my Robbie Anderson. So I think the wide receivers, I think I got the better end of the deal on that one. And I think
most certainly.
that, and especially because Giovanni Bernard, at least for 2 weeks, is going to get the bulk of the carries in Cincinnati now that Mixon's out. And so he now has Mixon and Gio. So even if Mixon comes back, he has the handcuff. And that's one of those strategies in fantasy called handcuffing, where you take both the starter and the backup. That way, when there's somebody that scores, you get the score. But it's one of those strategies that not everybody's into.
Yeah.
And so I have Jay Ajayi, and he's iffy. He's kind of hurt. He could play. We saw it last week when he gets hurt, and then he comes back and still scores a touchdown, which I know you were a little sweaty on that one, right?
Man, no, I did not want that at all.
Right, and so I picked up Corey Clement, his backup. So we both kind of have handcuffs now, and we swap wide receivers, and I think he's going to be the winner of the trade first, because obviously Gio's going to get a ton of carries. But I think in the long run, I'm going to come out on top of this trade having Allen Robinson.
I agree,
and
100%.
Jay Ajayi gets hurt all the time, so.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's a great trade. Both teams win.
And here's the thing. I would love to see more trades, and it is hard, and I get it. But remember, you're never going to win a trade 100-0. You have to understand you're going to give away something.
Right.
And so that's how you can get people to trade. Is like, I knew I was getting rid of a guy who's going to get a ton of carries, but I needed depth at my wide receiver. So I said, you know what? I'm taking a gamble, and let's do it. So you gotta work with people, guys. You can't just sit there and say, I need to win the trade. You're not going to trade rape anybody unless it's Holden. So, yeah. However, I don't know if you could trade with Holden because he literally has no one. So
My God, literally nobody. And you know what? What makes it even worse? Let's go on to our next segment. We're going to go ahead and look at the waivers that happened today. And we can all remember about how last week we were talking about how bad Holden drafted at wide receiver, right? We liked his running backs. We hate his wide receivers. If you want to pull up on your screen here, Dillon, go to the leaders page, right?
Yep.
And go ahead and sort by wide receiver. Martial Law is number one with 146 points. So you're telling me, and Holden is last with 27. You're telling me with 2 weeks at starting 3 wide receivers, you only get 27 points from your wide receivers.
And here's the thing. The league average for wide receiver scoring is 103 points right now.
Unbelievable. Okay, so coming into this waiver wire, we can look at who's available at the waiver. It's Kenny Galladay was the number one guy, I would
And
say.
a good guy. I had the 8th pick in the waivers. I knew I wasn't get him, but guess what? I still put in a waiver. For him because I
100%,
had
yeah.
him.
He's my number one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna look here. See, try to find it. Here we go. This is where we start the waivers today. So Holden is the number one waiver priority, right?
Oh, shocking. Yeah.
It's got the worst team. He's gonna get first. He drops Cameron Meredith, one of his wide receivers,
Yeah.
to pick up Jared Goff.
He
That's
already has 3 quarters.
he already has 3
And
quarterbacks.
he plays the wrong one every week. I don't know about that.
How?
Hold on. I had my people, Gee. I had my people crunch the numbers.
Okay, okay.
They crunched the numbers. They finally came back. They were running in. They were sweaty. They walked. They ran in saying, "Hey, you got to check these numbers out." And I was like, "What? It can't be that big of a deal." Holden's wide receivers score an average of 4 points. They crunched the numbers, and I'm not lying. It came out to 4.5. And I'm rounding down because fuck that guy.
Holden, what the fuck are you thinking, man?
4 points?
Come on, pick up Kenny Galladay. He'd be the number one wide receiver on your
So
team.
I'm going to go ahead and say, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I know we always have a segment called What the Fuck of the Week, like, what are you thinking? I'm going to go ahead and say this is it.
Dillon,
Already.
Kenny Galladay has scored 41.3 points this season.
That's almost a wide receiver for 2 weeks.
How? How?
Oh my god, dude. And here's the thing, and I knew this was gonna get to this point. We could have a whole podcast on just ripping Holden. So I'm gonna try to tone it back because it's really easy. And I'm looking at his roster. I don't know if you have it up, but like his running back ranked out of the entire league. And I'm just gonna say numbers. These are out of the entire league: 24, 49, 42, 46, 78, 110. Oh god, dude, it hurts me. Like, what are you gonna do? I'm more excited, and I know Holden's not gonna give up. That he's not that guy.
No, he's not. He's
I
not.
want
He's
to
gonna
know
keep
what
fighting.
he's gonna do here.
I have no idea. He's 100% gonna try to trade rape somebody.
He has to, and here's the thing: it's like maybe he's trying to corner the quarterback market. Maybe he's saying, you know, my only chance is to get all the quarterbacks and hope somebody needs one.
Oh man,
Because
Holden.
his starting wide receivers, everyone, in case you don't really feel like clicking his team, Brandon Marshall, Pierre Garçon, Allen Hurns are his starting wide receivers. And he has Doug Baldwin on the bench, who is hurt.
Holden, I really hope that this was a mistake. Like, you did not mean to make Jared
Did
Goff
he
your
get
number
drunk
one.
in round 1 at the draft?
No,
What?
his first couple of rounds weren't that bad. It's really when he started going for those wide receivers that it really
tell you
went
what,
downhill.
I'll take Dalvin Cook. Anyway.
Oh man! So we had a couple other good picks. I mean, Kenny Galladay went. Geronimo Allison, think he's going to be really good. Montana Muscalorders got rid of Greg, who got hurt, the kicker. Look at this! The Breaker Chains picked up Corey Clement and then used it as a trade piece against you.
Look at that.
Wow,
Hey, smart.
it's very smart.
So he essentially picked up Gio in the waiver.
Essentially, yeah, it's a really good move.
I like your pickup of Jesse James.
Oh man,
Now,
I think he's going to be good.
this year, if you could, so far we're only 2 weeks into the NFL season, but honestly, there are 2 things that are going on in this league. Tight ends are amazing.
Or
and-
shit.
And kickers are fucking awful.
They're so bad.
Oh, dude, how? And I said this in the group chat nonstop. How can you not find 30 guys in the world that can kick field goals consistently?
I have no idea.
It's like that must be harder than being a fucking Justice Supreme Court judge. It must be harder than being a senator. There's been more presidents than guys who can kick field goals.
Hey man, just because there are more people that can do it does not mean that they do it well, alright?
Oh god, it's so bad.
You know what I'm thinking about, Dylan? I'm thinking about like starting to work out real hard and just trying out as a kicker for the NFL.
That's the thing. It's like, you know what else must suck? Being an offensive coordinator. That must be really hard because there's a lot of shitty ones of those too.
Any other good pickups? Alshon Jeffries looks like that's probably
I
a
love
good pickup.
the Jesse James pickup just because I'm on the tight end bandwagon this year. Obviously, I think now that you've pointed it out, I think the best pickup was Corey Clement because it became an instant trade piece.
Yeah, it was really good. It's really, really
So I
good.
like that. I'm not a fan of Dean's pickup of O.J. Howard, though. Now, granted, he had a great 75-yard, but 70 of those 75 yards came on the run. Is
Yeah.
he going to do that more often? I don't know. I'm not a believer yet.
No, I don't think it's going to happen. Ryan Fitzpatrick throws to the wide receivers, not the tight ends. When he throws to the tight ends, not really deep passes. But the thing about O.J. Howard is that man is a monster.
Oh,
If
for sure.
you
For sure. I agree.
like,
He's Evan Ingram. He's
he's
a
better.
blocker.
He's better than Evan
You think
Ingram.
he's okay.
He's
Okay,
better.
Here we go. The homer.
Listen. No. The man is like 6'6", weighs like 260 pounds, and he runs a 4.40 or a 4.5. You don't get a 70 yards after catch
No, I agree.
by not being an absolute beast of a tight
I
end.
also think you put Evan Ingram on a better team where an offensive coordinator isn't just an absolute dumbass, and I think he's better.
I mean, that whole team's a mess.
That team is, dude, what a waste. I mean, granted, that offensive line is the worst thing I've seen since, like, Florida State,
Yep.
and it's just, it's so bad.
I always talk about, like, you only need a quarterback, a coach, and an offensive line, and your offense is going to be amazing. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
Patriots
all
show
you need.
that.
The Giants are absolutely the opposite. Yeah, let's just get the best wide receiver and, like, one of the best running backs, and, like, let's just run an offense that way. It's like, nah, man, that doesn't
I mean,
work.
look at all the teams that, have those star wide receivers, the stars, on the skill positions.
Yeah.
It's not as consistent. Yeah, you're going to win some games. You might win a Super Bowl, but for dynasty building, no.
That's not going to work. All right, let's move on. We're going to try to make this podcast short. We're going to try to keep it on 30 minutes. We spent our good 10 minutes here, a third of it on our first segment. Let's go ahead and go into the next. We're going to go look at last week's matchups.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and start with my game and your game. Game of the week, as we predicted.
I was upset because, scoring 177 points, 178 points essentially, third out of everyone. And you can check out the power rankings. You guys can look at those. I'm just going to do a quick plug of that. The overall wins is probably the most important column, if you ask me, because it really gauges how you are against the entire league every week. So, for example, I'm 15-3. I would have only lost to 3 teams in 2 weeks. And, of course, I got matched up against one of those this week against Geek. But then you scroll all the way down to Holden, who is 0-18. That means he would have not beat anyone ever. So we'll see how long that streak can go. But anyway, take a look at those charts. I put them out every Tuesday night. They're really informative. So, yeah, and the trends are really cool. I know they don't mean much right now, like the roster strength trends and the power rank over time. But as we get into like weeks 5 through 12, it's going to be really cool to see the evolution of the season. So check those out.
Yeah, really cool. I have them up right here for everybody to see. But what's going on right into the game? Yeah, man. Patrick Mahomes.
The game, though, Jay Ajayi got hurt. We all know that. And he came back. He tried to salvage my game. He scored only 11, but I can't be mad because he got hurt early. He came back and at least scored some points. But here's the thing. If Odell Beckham can just do something on that offense, that'd be great.
4 receptions
now,
for
granted, I'm
51
not going to
yards.
win. I wasn't going to win this game regardless. But you played a great game, so I'll give it to you. I can't be upset. But what gives me solace, though, is if I can put up 178 plus, I'm going to win a lot of games. So.
You will win a lot of games, and the power rankings showed that. You got Patrick Mahomes scored 6 touchdowns, and that wasn't enough. Just that Jay Ajayi injury. Just
Odell Beckham and George Kittle not doing much. So.
Yeah, like my team just put up a solid performance. Both of us had around 88. I had 88%. You had 89% on the coach's score there, so we did pretty good.
Your Bears D is very, very good.
Oh,
and
that was an awesome pickup.
Perfect matchup on that one.
Yeah.
Which brings up the consideration of why the hell would anybody start Russell Wilson in that game? I don't know.
Oh, you want to go right into that one? Let's go. Let's do it. Okay, so Montana Musculoaders versus Domtavius Roboclick.
Interesting. Oh, the top guy, Russell Wilson, against the Chicago Bears with Khalil Mack.
Remember when we were talking about some guys are just going to have a really hard time choosing their teams?
Yeah.
Look at Domtavius with his 75% coach rating. Had he picked the right guys this week, he would have won.
Yes, and here's the thing. He had two guys out, so that makes the decision a little bit easier. But here's the double-edged sword of having a bunch of quarterbacks. You have to make the right decision. So you have 3 quarterbacks on your roster. There's a lot of guys like me that only have 1 quarterback on their roster. Guess what? It makes decisions a lot easier if you only have 1. And so now you look down at your roster, and it's like Aaron Rodgers against Minnesota. I don't blame you for not starting that. That's a scary matchup. So good job. But Blake Bortles against New England? New England has no defense.
Yeah, I would fire that one up.
I would have gone with Blake Bortles 100% of the time.
Yep.
And especially because of how bad the matchup was against Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago was also a terrible match, man. Khalil Mack on his first game back, he was just tearing people up, or his first game with the Bears. The Seahawks don't have an offensive line. What do you think Khalil Mack is going to do to them?
Right. And another one of those things where I highly suggest people look at Vegas lines. The highest scoring game of the week, according to Vegas, before Sunday was the Pittsburgh-Kansas City game. Why don't you play Sammy Watkins in that game, then?
Yeah.
And he scores 19 points. If he put him over Philip Dorsett against the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary, I just think that's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. Let's go on to this game,
Alex,
H-Bug
I love you, though.
versus House of Pure Prism. Let's just look at it, okay? Now let's go back. We're done there. Martial Law versus Joe Buck yourself. Oh, man.
Oh, God. What a massacre.
Martial Law
Okay,
versus
anyway,
Joe
what's
Buck
next?
yourself. Yeah, great game. I mean, Martial Law has an amazing team.
Yes.
Joe Buck yourself, not so much.
Hey, can we take a note? Dean, 87%, buddy?
Hey, congratulations, Dean! Hey, he's
Oh.
improving. Hey,
Yeah.
okay, who'd you have setting your lineups this week? Don't lie. It wasn't you.
Plugged it in. Plug it in.
Oh, man. Yeah, but great game. I mean, I never thought Joe Buck yourself had a chance. But nonetheless, Martial Law, see, it's going to be a scary team. Let's go on to our next match.
And I'm looking at his matchups, and I can honestly say I would have made the exact same decisions based on his squad. So, there you go.
Yeah. And the Breaker of Chains versus Chalupa
Very,
Batman.
very good game.
Oh man, so close. Only 5-point difference here. Separates both teams.
And Breaker of Chains is kicking himself because that game could have easily been won.
Oh, look at that. 79% coach rating.
Yep.
He loses the game due to coaching.
And Breda scored those points. And so did Keelan Cole.
And Keelan Cole. Man, I love Keelan Cole. I think he's so good. He carried me to a championship last year. Picked him up off the waivers.
It's one of those where, again, I look at these matchups, and here's the thing, and I'll say this: 2020 is, or I'm sorry, hindsight is 2020. So guys, don't think that we're calling you dumb. It's just that I'm looking back, and you always want to, evaluate your decisions. And I'm looking at Keelan Cole against New England. That's a juicy matchup. And then you look at Larry Fitz against the Rams. That is not a juicy matchup.
Yeah,
And
but
so-
you kind of have to start Larry Fitz, though. He just got hurt.
With
Yeah.
Sam Bradford?
Yeah, but he got hurt.
Oh, I get that. So he would have scored 10 points. Cool.
Sometimes you need that floor,
I would hold Larry Fitz. And here's the thing. I would never drop him, and I would never get rid of him because he's that good, and wait for Rosen to start.
I would have played Larry Fitz, personally, but I definitely would have played Keelan Cole over Tyler Lockett and Allen Robinson.
Lockett was like a last-second dump he put in there. I watched.
Yeah, he did.
I think he brought it up.
He brought it up in the group chat because I can 100% understand it because he wanted the high ceiling, not the floor. He needed it to win, and he thought, Tyler Lockett can go off with a good punt return or a deep bomb touchdown, and that might, do it for him.
You know what my thinking was, and this is honest to God truth. When he put him in there, I said, I think that will backfire simply because Doug Baldwin is out. That means the Bears can focus on Lockett and nobody else. What's Brandon Marshall going to do? And so then, and I'm thinking from like the Seahawks perspective, if you only have Lockett, that's your only receiver that's essentially healthy, or do you really want him returning punts?
Yeah.
So that was my rationale. That's what I was thinking. And here, at the end of the day, it made 1 point of difference. 0.9. It wasn't even a full point. So,
Right.
Whatever.
But hey, sometimes at 0.9 though.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking at his stats. He had 14 punt return yards and a fumble. He did catch a TD, so I mean, he did get his stuff. He had 5 catches, So, I mean, Lockett, I guess, is one of those guys that even if Baldwin's out, he's going to get looks. So, there you go.
And he gets those punt return yards, which are pretty good.
Exactly.
Pretty good. So let's go ahead and go and jump right on into the next segment. We're gonna recap, or not recap. We're gonna preview next week. I'm gonna jump right into what I think is gonna be the game of the week. I know it's kind of crazy to saying that I'm gonna be the game of the week 2 weeks in a row, but there's no way you can't say this is not the game of the week, right, Dillon?
2-2-0 teams, leaders in the clubhouse, if you will. It's the matchup that we want to see. Who's going to go 3-0? I mean, that's exciting. And when you're 3-0, you have that sigh of relief that you are 3 games over 500.
Yep.
You have a good road to the playoffs. You have a good stranglehold on the division. So 3-0 is way different than 2-1. So
100%.
I just think it's a big thing. And for me, I think the 2-0 matchup where one team goes 3-0, one team goes 2-1 is a little bit more, on edge than a 1-1, 1-1 matchup, because 1-2, you're right there at 500. 2-1, you're right there at 500. You're still on edge. You're still on eggshells. You're not out of the danger zone. But 3-0 is such a reward.
Oh man, I'm gonna try to stay undefeated as long as possible.
That's what I'm saying. You want to, man. So
yeah,
you can have
100%.
those shitty weeks and not fall in the standings.
So House of Priapism, this man is hiding all his cards until the last moment. You can notice all his players are on his bench.
And and I know this was brought up in Robert's video yesterday, and if you haven't watched it, please go do.
It's amazing.
Awesome. He claimed that Priapism does this because I called it out, but he actually did this all last season too.
The entire last season, I remember. Yeah.
So I didn't want to go this podcast without trying to have Priapism's back on that.
So since we don't know what he's starting, I'm just gonna go over my team real quick.
Yes.
I have decided to go 100% in on the Monday night game. It is
which is so exciting. That Monday night game is going to be.
It's going to be so good. I think it's going to be another one, Bucks versus a Saints scenario. Where both teams go over 40 points. It's going to be an absolute shutout. So, or shootout. I'm going to try to get as many of my pieces in there as possible. I got Ryan Fitzpatrick. I got Mike Evans. I got Juju Smith-Schuster and Deshaun Jackson all starting that game.
And just because I keep talking about Vegas, because Vegas knows everything, the over-under for the Tampa-Pittsburgh game is 53.5.
I will go over.
And exactly, that's the third highest scoring of the game of the day. And Pittsburgh is only 2-point favorites. Can you believe Pittsburgh is a 2-point favorite in Tampa? But anyway, Pittsburgh's a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm 100% going to put in a bet on the Bucks and on the over.
And just knowing it's so close, that means they're both going to be throwing. They're both going to be playing hard all game, so there's not going to be a lot of garbage time. So.
No. So, the Bucks can't run the ball for some reason. They just can't. So, I don't know. I guess they're just going to put up another 400 yards through the air, and hopefully my fantasy team wins because of it.
And what's really cool about your team, it's not just Tampa. You got Pittsburgh dudes, you got Tampa dudes. You're going in.
I'm going in. From both sides. That game, I'm praying that it's a good one.
The score is 100-99.
I hope to score 220. You know what? I need it against House of Priapism. I gotta take this gamble. You notice I took David Johnson. I put his ass on the bench. I don't care if he's like the centerpiece of that offense.
Well, that's Chicago. I would sit him no matter what at this point. That defense is scary.
I'm not playing him. Let's just go with Lamar Miller and gamble everywhere else. Hopefully it works. What do you think House of Priapism is going to do against me?
So I'm taking a look at his lineup, and I would think it's Alex Smith, who has a decent matchup against Green Bay.
Yep.
And I'm looking down. I like his running backs. Maybe not the Melvin Gordon, even though Melvin Gordon's a beast. He's got tough matchups at running back.
Melvin Gordon gets his points on the end, on the goal line, and through catches. Though, it doesn't matter that he's not going to run the ball. He's still going to get a bunch of catches.
And one of those things that people need to remember is all these questionable things next to these guys. It's Wednesday. Everybody's questionable. Everybody's hurt.
Everybody's a little banged up.
Yeah. I don't know. He's got a bunch of dudes against San Francisco, and that is the highest scoring game of the week. So that's going to be interesting.
Which game's the highest scoring of the week?
San Francisco, Kansas
City. Oh yeah, I can see that one being a blast too.
So and he's got a bunch of dudes. So I think
he's got a bunch of dudes in that game. Yeah.
What if both of you guys score over 200? I could see that.
Oh my God, this is it's too much. Who do you think is going to take the win?
I'm gonna say Captain McGee takes the win by less than 5 points.
I like it. Let's keep it like that. Let's go on to our next game.
Yeah.
H-Bug versus Montana Muskeloaders. Has Holden's team changed at all?
Nope, still shit.
All right, cool. Next match.
Yeah.
My dad owns a dealership versus Martial Law. If it wasn't for the fact that two undefeated teams are going up against each other, this would be the game of the week.
Yes. And I feel, and this is, again, talking about the history of the league, Martian Law and My Dad Owns a Dealership, whenever we meet, it's a fucking fight. And I love it. I think we've grown like this natural rivalry in the league.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a fun game. Again, I'm thankful that Le'Veon Bell's out, but James Conner's a beast, and that's a high-scoring game. So I'm nervous about how James Conner's going to score. I'm hoping, though, that my juicy matchups, this is 2 straight weeks, Gee, that I got juicy matchups, and I'm all about that. So I'm hoping I score another 178, and this time, it's enough. That's what I'm hoping for.
You're hoping for 178?
You know what? 178 is going to win me games. So you know what? 178 and up, and I am...
Okay. I'm worried about Odell Beckham versus Houston.
Look at that projection, though. Jesus.
I mean, they're not going to lay off on him.
I
It's
know.
Odell Beckham, you can't.
Houston's defense is real good.
They're good, but you got Patrick Mahomes versus San Francisco. He could throw up another 6 touchdowns again
That's
this week.
what I'm talking about. Can you imagine 16 touchdowns in 3 weeks for a rookie?
That's nuts. Absolutely crazy. But he's got James Conner versus Tampa Bay.
I know,
James
that's
Conner's
what I'm
gonna
nervous about.
is gonna go off, but oh, buddy.
My gamble, and just to give you guys kind of an insight to what I'm dealing with this week, and it's, do I start Jay Ajayi against the Colts? That's a juicy matchup, but he's a little banged up. Do I finally start Bilal Powell? He's been sitting my bench. He scored 20 last week.
Yeah, I know, but he scored like 5 the first week. You just don't know which one is gonna be.
He scored 10.
Okay, but you just don't know. You don't know. Is it gonna be Isaiah
know.
Crowell this
Yeah,
week?
he's
Is it gonna be
volatile.
Bilal Powell?
And it's a Thursday game.
Oh, and those are always a shit show.
Right.
Let's see, let's look at the defenses. You got Vikings versus Buffalo.
Juicy.
Oh, I'm giving it to you. You got enough players on that San Francisco-Kansas City game going into this week, and Vikings versus Buffalo. That could be a 20 points from your defense. That can win you a week.
I'm hoping to see a Gee Bears defense type game.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that can win you a week. Let's go on and move on to the next game. Do you have a prediction? Just you winning?
I win by 1,000.
By 1,000. All right. So, Stumtavius Roboclick versus the Breaker of Chains. Both of these teams are a little far apart on the rankings,
Yeah.
but they're both 1-1.
Yeah, we got the number 5, number 8 matchup here. This game seems close, and I'm excited to see how the Breaker of Chains uses Giovanni Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at this team, this game. I think Antonio Brown goes off. I think he shuts everybody up about this whole trade crap, and he's like, "Fuck it, I don't care."
But what if he doesn't even show up to the game, though?
I would. Oof.
Oof.
Can we make like a podcast bet?
What are we gonna bet on?
Okay, I don't know. I'll think about it, but my bet would be he scores over 25 points.
Okay.
That'd be cool. Would you go under if like Vegas said 25 fantasy points? What would you say?
I'd go over.
Okay, so it's not really. Anyway, we'll think about it.
It's not, man. The Buccaneers secondary is so trash.
Do
So
you start Russell Wilson?
who's Russell Wilson playing against?
Dallas.
He's got
Pretty
Aaron
odd.
Rodgers versus Washington, though. You got to go in on that.
Right. That's what I mean. According to this, Washington is the first place against quarterback team. Like they've only allowed 166 yards.
Who have they played against?
That's true. They've played. If I can.
Is there an easier way to find this
I know,
out?
right? What the
Like,
hell?
come on!
What is this? All right, you talk and I'll look it up.
I'm also looking it up. God damn it!
Okay. They have played. Google doesn't even tell me. The Colts and the Cardinals. Okay.
So, are they a good defense?
I don't know. We don't know yet.
No, they're not a good defense. Let's move on. We'll be fine. Just, hey, listen, put in your Aaron Rodgers. And I got another tip right here. If you haven't noticed, Breaker of Chains does not have a defense on his team at the moment.
Okay.
All right, and Stumtavius Roboclick does not have a player on his bench. This man can honestly play some defense by going to the waiver wire, finding the best defense, and picking them up before Breaker Chains can pick them up.
What's out there? I'm gonna go look while you're talking.
Yeah, it's a juicy lead play. You can try their Roboclick. Sweat. Little tip. I think Breaker Chains still win. He's a good team. Stumtavius, unfortunately, is not so strong. And our last matchers, we got Chalupa Batman versus Joe Buck Yourself.
Yeah.
Have you found anything on there?
To be honest, I'm not excited about any of them. Maybe the Jets against Cleveland on a Thursday night. The Jets are the second best defense in the league right now, scoring-wise.
Yeah, but then again, who have they played too?
Detroit and Miami.
Yeah. Miami Dolphins against the Oakland.
Raiders.
Not feeling so hot about that.
Interesting, yeah. Maybe the Panthers D. Panthers D isn't terrible.
No, but hey, you pick one of those.
Yeah,
Whichever one you
play
think
some
is the
defense.
best, play some defense. Get some keep away there. So, Chalupa Batman versus Joe Buck Yourself.
Yeah.
Chalupa Batman is projected to blow this game out of the water.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking down, and they have Carson Wentz playing this week. He's
They do.
projected at 21 points.
They do, but I mean, Carson Wentz or Tom Brady versus Detroit.
And I will say, sources have whispered in my ear,
Mhm.
my insider. If you could picture, I'm like texting my insiders right now. Dean is actively shopping for a running back. I don't know how I know that, but my sources do.
Oh, you're telling me that Adrian Pearson and Lindsey are just not doing it for him? Dude, you got
just
Kenyon
saying.
Drake. Put Kenyon Drake in your lineup. Dean!
And I will say he has some of those wide receivers. I'm not going to tell you which one because I don't want to throw my sources under the bus here. But some of those wide receivers on his bench he is willing to part with. And he's got some decent ones.
Oh, you mean Chris Godwin, who's playing Pittsburgh this week in a very high-scoring game?
And Hogan, who gets 5 targets at minimum.
Yeah, I still think Chalupa Batman takes this game.
I think so. And here's the thing. We go back to those power rankings. According to the experts, the rest of the season roster strength, not just the matchups. We're not talking matchups.
I pulled up the power rankings here. Let's talk real in-depth about the power rankings.
So those rest of season roster, the ROS all the way on the right-hand side. You see the ROS roster? So that is based on the roster strength and how many times you play each team else in the league. So the algorithm knows you're going to play each team in your division twice. And also it calculates the roster rankings, the player rankings from over 100 experts. They bring those out every Tuesday afternoon. And so based on those, Chalupa Batman has the #1 rest of season roster strength. So just on that, and I think Dean is all the way down at number 9. I think just knowing that, Joe Buck Yourself goes to 0-3, and Chalupa Batman goes to 2-1.
Yeah. Well, how do you think? So, by our predictions, how do you think this is going to look at the end of the week?
The power rankings and
Yep.
stuff? Okay, so that juicy matchup of Priapism and McGee, I mean, that is going to be the fight for #1. Whoever wins that game is the new #1. I think I scoot up to #2 if I put up another 180-plus point game, simply because I'm scoring 191 points per game, and if I can keep that there, I mean, that's hard to deny the #3
Right.
spot when the next highest is 175. And so I think we're going to see smaller shifts. Right now, I don't see the bottom grouping ever coming up soon. Maybe it's going to take them a few weeks. But that middle pack, we're going to see 4 through 7 change quite a bit. But 1 and 2, they're going to flip or stay the same. I'm going to stay at about 3. Chalupa, Martian might switch spots. But I think it's going to be small changes next week.
Yeah, I agree. Now I'm gonna pull up here the over week power rank over time. What do you feel about Holden and Joe Buck Yourself?
So you're looking at power rank over time?
Yep.
Yeah, so they stay there. That's the most exciting thing I've ever seen. 9 and 10. Good job, guys. You guys are doing work down there. Keep us on our toes.
Oh, buddy.
Meanwhile, the top is just a barf. Like, we're all just, like, going everywhere.
Man. Well, we did a pretty good job. We're only 5 minutes over today, Dylan.
Cool. Hey, oh, really quick, people have been waiting. Did we officially go over our what the fucks of the week?
We did.
Oh, okay.
I mean, my what the fuck of the week was Holden
Yes.
with his waiver wire pickup.
Oh, yeah, okay. My what the fuck is Holden's entire roster, so. God damn. Dude, okay, just before we go, I'm gonna use. I can't not let this go. I'm looking at his Jesus. 104 points. I'm just gonna say numbers, and these are the scores that his players scored 5, 8, 9, 1, 9. Holden, I'm sorry, bro. What the hell?
Get your shit together, Holden. Alright, guys. Catch you next week. Have a good one.
Have a good one.